so pleased to have you on on here with us this morning. And uh, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to give us an overview and an update about TRS and where we're at and what you're hearing. And we'll have opportunities, superintendents, to put some of your questions or comments in the chat. Owens will be monitoring those, and we'll certainly try to get everyone's questions answered. But good morning, Beau, and welcome.
Thank you, Jim, and good morning, everyone. And thank you for inviting TRS to talk to you today. Appreciate the opportunity. I've got a lot to cover. I might speak somewhat quickly, but if you need me to slow down or stop and go back to a point, please let me know. I want to start with investment returns because that's so important at TRS, because investment returns for pensions, just as they do with 401k plans, it's the investment returns that pay most of the benefit. It's not the dollars that go in, it's what you earn on those dollars that go in, whether it's a pension or 401k plan that eventually you'll be able to draw out. So they're very important. First, I want to report a short-term numbers for the fiscal year end, just that one year ending June 30th, 2025, this past fiscal year. The pension returned 12.34% for the year. That
Wow.
places PRS in the top 6% in the nation when compared to other large public pension plans. Now, I always say this, TRS is a long-term investor. It's always important to keep that in mind. We don't get too excited about one good year, nor do we get too excited about one bad year, or even a couple of good years or bad years. We know with certainty markets are volatile. Markets go up, markets go down. We know it's going to happen. And we know not always going to be in the top 6%, but long term, we have been a top tier performer. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But we've been asked, what happens if we see a market decline? That's not necessarily a bad thing, okay? Because when markets are hot, that's when our investment teams start taking some money and moving it out of stocks, for example, and moving it into fixed income or cash or something else that's not as hot. That's a constant process. We call it rebalancing, so that when the markets do go down, and then stocks are looking cheap again, that's when we start buying. It's a constant process of buy low, sell high. We do that continually. So that's not a big deal if we have a couple of down years in the market. Uh, it can become a deal if we have something that we had with the tech.com bubble crash in 99, 2000, where after that period of time, we had like a 13-year flat period of markets. I mean, markets went up and down throughout that period. But if you look at the market value at the end of 2000 versus the end of 2013, it's about the same. But that was an extraordinary event. It's atypical. Normal market declines are fine, though. We can weather those well. TRS is a top performer. I'm just going to throw out one number here. That outperformance the TRS has had with investments and measuring this back to the 2008, 2009 Great Recession real estate bubble, our outperformance compared to just an average large public pension plan, not the worst, not in the bottom half, not in the top half, just average, which is not bad. That added an additional $7.1 billion to the portfolio just with that outperformance. So very, very important with investments. Funded status. So the numbers I'm going to provide this morning are for the fiscal year 2024. 2025 is not available yet, and I'll talk about that in a minute as well. But the pension fund was funded at 59.1%. Okay. The health insurance trust was funded at 80.4%. It's growing very quickly. That's for fiscal year 24. We'll see it grow even more for 25. But that's up from 71.3% in 2023. So almost a 10% increase in just one year. Um, Now, these funded statuses I'm giving you, they are provided by the actuary, the TRS independent actuary, on an annual basis. And it takes some time to get all the information that comes in, employer reporting from the districts and, auditing all of this information, auditing returns, and it just takes a while. But they will have a new annual valuation for the 2025 year that will be reported this November 15th. And again, we'll have those numbers for pension and health and all the other information that goes along with that. So I know everyone will be looking at that expectantly. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. Um, let's see. I will mention health insurance just real briefly because something you need to know for your employees, you get, or not your employees, but your peers, your retired peers. Uh, TRS issued two requests for proposals several months ago for its Medicare eligible health plan. One was for the medical side. The medical side is everything but drugs. It's hospital visits, doctor visits, and then the other was for the drug side. So on the drug side, the pharmacy benefits manager Express Script stays the same, no change. On the medical side, we are moving from United Healthcare to Humana. We designed these RFPs to be seamless, so same out-of-pocket cost, same access to doctors and hospitals, same benefits basically. So our members won't really see a change. They'll get a new card at the end of December with Humana on it instead of United Healthcare. Going kind of quickly here, but again, there's a lot to cover. I want to leave time for questions as well. Upcoming session. So we all know with the upcoming session, it's a big one because it's a budget session as an even numbered year. And TRS, as always, is submitting a budget request that includes the full actually required amount. And I mention that because a few years ago, there were a lot of high profile statements that for a number of years, TRS did not ask for the full actually necessary amount for the pension. That's not true. There's no foundation for that. TRS has always asked for that full amount. Now, there were a number of years, a decade, in fact, where TRS did not get what was needed for the pension fund. And that really got us behind because you're not only missing out on the contributions that should be going into the pension fund, uh, you are also missing out, very importantly, on that very important investment income that pays for the most of the benefits. So we're not just missing out on that investment income for 1 year, we're missing out on that investment income in perpetuity. I will never get that back. We'll never have those income streams off of those dollars coming back. So that's a lot to overcome, but very, very thankful, and we're very appreciative of the General Assembly for this. But the end of this current budget biennium, which ends June 30th, 2026, that will mark 10 years of full or very, very nearly full funding. And when I say very nearly full, in 2017, we got 99% of what we needed. And in 2018, we got 97%. But every year after that, it's been 100%. So very appreciative. Um, what that does is funding. It allows TRS to implement its funding plan to pay off the legacy unfunded liability, which is the shortfall in assets today that we need, along with investment income, to fully pay teachers' retirement benefits so that all that's left to pay is what actuaries call the normal cost. That's how much money we have to put in each teacher's account every year of their career that with investment income will pay their benefits on actual average for the rest of their lives. So this unfunded liability we're trying to pay off over a 30-year period, an amortized basis, and we're trying to pay that off, kind of like a home mortgage, it's sort of akin to that. And with that, I want to point out that I mentioned earlier that the funding status of the pension was 59.1%. It was 58.6% the year before, so not a large increase. And I want to explain that because this is like a home mortgage, and everybody has this experience, understands this. In the early years of the amortization period, and we're just out of the first third of that amortization period, pensions, like with the home mortgages, those early years, you're paying more interest than principal. And we've all had that experience where it's disappointing to see how little principal you're paying every month on those mortgage statements. But eventually, you're starting to pay more and more principal and less interest. And then that flips at some point, and you're paying more principal than interest. It's the same thing with pensions. Right now, we're kind of in the paying more interest stage and less principal, but we are making headway. It's slow. It's very slow. You're not going to see the funded status for the pension increase sharply for the next few years. And this is not anything unexpected. Our actuary has for years provided 30-year projections on the funded status. And for years, going back years, it's shown that this is how it is for right now during this early part of the amortization period, that we're just making, very small increases, or sometimes there's no increase from year to year, but it's anticipated by the actuary. And the actuary has seen this with other public pension plans that it serves that are further along in the amortization period, where they finally get out of this early stage, and then they start getting, you see a sharper increase in funding. And we will start to see a sharper increase in funding in the next 5 or 6 years, but it just takes some time to get there. But it is working. And with this funding that we're getting, there is a point in the future, about 20 years, when TRS will be, without a doubt, 100% funded. We know that, and we make adjustments every year. The actuary makes adjustments every year to make sure that we follow that path from today to that 20-year period. And those adjustments are in the form of, minor changes in adjustments in our budget request to make sure that we stay on track to be 100% funded. And the great news is that when we are 100% funded, that at that point, TRS is very cheap for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We will be about the same cost as Social Security, and maybe even less than the cost of Social Security at that time, because Social Security is under a lot of pressure. They're in trouble. And one of the ways to address that Social Security funding shortfall is to increase contributions. So TRS could actually be cheaper than Social Security at some point. And TRS provides a much, much higher benefit than Social Security can provide. And the reason for that, it's not magic. The reason for that is because, unlike Social Security, we take that funding that we get and we invest it in the markets, and we grow the trust funds so that TRS can afford to pay a bigger benefit. And that's a tremendous thing. That's a tremendous thing for the Commonwealth, because I think it seems to be a misperception uh, out there that the Commonwealth has to come up with all of this funding, and it's just being sucked into some black hole, never to be seen again. It's like a waste of money almost. We're spending all this money on TRS. That's not true, because again, we take that funding, we invest it, we grow it, and then it comes out in the form of retirement benefits. Uh, $2.5 billion in pension and health insurance were paid out by TRS last year. 90% of those dollars stayed in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. You imagine 90% of that $2.5 billion is distributed throughout every county in the Commonwealth. What a tremendous economic impact and stimulus those dollars have on those counties, that those teachers are able to spend. So it comes right back out. That funding they give us comes right back out, not in the same dollars, but in increased dollars with the investment returns and how we grow it over a teacher's career. So it's a great benefit for the Commonwealth. And this money it continues during recessions too, because teachers know they have steady stream of income they can continue to spend. So there's a great stabilizer during economic downturns where we have recession. So it's a wonderful thing for the Commonwealth. Something else I want to talk about with funding that seems to be a misperception is that the funding requests are increasing exponentially without end forever. This is never going to end. Uh, I don't think I don't think they understand how much the funding requests are increasing. They're not increasing as sharply as I sometimes hear from the public comments that I hear. And I'll share with you, TRS publishes, and it's on our website. It's an annual comprehensive financial report, ACFR. You can go to the TRS website, look under financial reports, and it'll be close to the top of that web page. And on page 162, there's a good schedule, and it shows how much total funding TRS is going to need over the next 20 years. And you'll see one, it's not quite as sharp as sometimes what we hear with in the public world. And then also you see that in the later years, it even starts kind of leveling off some. Those increases are largely inflation, payroll growth and inflation that is, you normally see. So yes, it's going to grow, but not as steeply. And there is an end in sight. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And when we are 100% funded, the cost of TRS is going to plummet for the Commonwealth. From one year to the next, it will go drop by over half, almost to one-third of what they were paying in the previous year. And again, that's when, without that unfunded liability we're paying now would be cheaper than Social Security. And certainly when we're at 100% funded, what the Commonwealth is going to see in funding as a funding item is going to be a lot less than or same or very similar to Social Security. So that's just important. No, there is the light at the end of the tunnel. This is not something that's going to happen for. And again, and very importantly, this money doesn't go into some black hole. It goes right back out again. So that's very important.
Well, Bo, you mentioned the session coming up, and so what will be the request for this upcoming session? What is the actual numbers that you all are going to be requesting to fully fund the ARC?
Okay, so for 2027, that's going to be $1.1 billion to fully fund. That's pension and health insurance both. 93 million of that's health insurance, the state's share of health insurance for retired teachers. 2028 is 1.152 billion projected for that year. So and I'm sorry, those are what I gave you just then was what we needed to catch up to pay off the unfunded liability. The total is actually higher because the numbers I gave you did not include the SEEK formula. For 2027, there's an additional $530 million that comes to TRS through the SEEK formula. And that's just that standard fixed member contribution that the Commonwealth or employer contribution that the Commonwealth makes on behalf of the school district. So for 2027, the total with the SEEK formula dollars is $1.7 billion. For 2028, the total with the SEEK dollars is $1.8 billion. So you see about a $100 million increase between those 2 years.
Yeah, okay. And how does that compare to the current budget that we're in?
The current budget we're in right now, fiscal year 26, that we just entered, is 1.5 billion.
Okay. So yeah, because that's what we get a lot from legislators is that it just keeps on going up and up. But kind of what I'm hearing from you is that is that acceleration of the increase eventually going to level off, or will that keep on going up and up and up over the next 20 years?
But you can look, and I think it's very helpful looking at that page 162, the act where I mentioned. You can see in those out years, when you get out to 2039 or so, it really seems it starts to level off a little bit and it goes down a little bit. In those out years, you're seeing it bump up around $2.5 billion. But we are talking about 15 years from now. So you would expect it to go from $1.7 billion for 2027 to $2.5 billion, 15 years from now. Everything's going to be more expensive and cost more 15 years from now. And that's going also increases just with payroll. Anticipate that payroll is going to grow, both hopefully with salaries, but also as the population grows with more teachers. That's how payroll growth increases. And so you anticipate that as payroll grows, your contributions are going to grow as well.
Mhm. Yeah. And then I know coming into the session, there's always other issues out there. Last session, they put some guardrails around accumulated sick leave. We've been hearing some
Yes.
murmurs of, maybe targeting annual leave this time. What are you hearing on that front?
Yes. So annual leave has been a big focus recently. And there seems to be a perception among some legislators that Uh, Maybe there's some kind of abuse in the districts with annual leave, that it's a large part of the unfunded liability at TRS, and there's a large cost for the Commonwealth for annual leave when it's used for retirement. And we've looked at every district, what they're doing, and it's not an issue. There's not abuse out there. Everyone's pretty much close to in line with what they do in annual leave. There are no extreme cases in any district. Most districts do not allow annual leave to be included for retirement calculation purposes, but those do include some of our larger districts. So, uh, more than half of our members are eligible to have some form measure of annual leave included for retirement calculation purposes. Although often, it's very modest. For teachers, that might be 1 or 2 or 3 annual leave days a year, and they use those, so there's just not that much. And our statute limits annual leave for retirement calculation purposes to no more than 60 days.
Right.
And some districts go even further. For example, we were asked about Jefferson County this week from legislators about what they're doing. And their policy caps annual leave for retirement at 40 days, so even less than the statutorily allowed 60 days. So it's just not the issue. We've talked to the actuary about the unfunded liability impact. It's nothing. It really isn't. And I want to point out very importantly that TRS has, we call them account types, but people would probably commonly refer to them as benefit tiers. We have 4 at TRS, for TRS 3 and TRS 4. And that's everybody who becomes a member on or after July 1st, 2008. They can't use annual leave towards retirement at all. Okay. Those are our biggest 2
So
tiers.
basically, we know that there's
It's
a
going away.
limited number and it's going away just
Yeah.
naturally. As
TRS 3 is 45% of our active membership. TRS 2, 4, our newest tier, is now our second largest tier at 22% of our active membership. So, that's 67% of our members, active members, aren't even going to get annually, be able to use annual leave for retirement calculation purposes. And on a corollary, sick leave, that's been a big topic too. But sick leave, TRS 3 members are capped at 300 days, you know. And there aren't a lot of people that have more than 300 days, but you do. And those that do, uh, 2 things happen. They worked a long, long time, and they were fortunate enough not to be ill or have to use their sick leave days. But they're capped at 300 days, and TRS 4 members cannot have sick leave applied for retirement calculation purposes. So sick leave as an issue is going away as well.
right.
But we are here. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, correct. I was just
Yeah.
affirming that.
Yeah, but we are hearing a lot of talk about annual leave. We've been asked to provide a lot of data about that. Uh, just a day ago, it was my understanding that annual leave was going to be a topic on the agenda for the Public Pension Oversight Board this Tuesday. I heard today it may not be a topic after all, still waiting to hear. But if it is, we'll be ready to present. And everyone can see that this is really not a big ticket item. There's not a big cost to the Commonwealth. It's really de minimis as a part of unfunded liability.
Hey, Bo, can
Yeah.
you recap those dates? What are the dates that where someone after such and such date
Okay, sure,
does
sure,
not qualify for those leave days
sure.
for
Uh,
retirement purposes?
okay, so TRS 3 is for anybody who becomes a member on or after July 1st, 2008,
Yeah.
but before January 1st, 2022. Those are our TRS 3 members. Our TRS 4 members are everyone who becomes a member on or after January 1st, 2022. And you see that's already at 19% of our active membership, even in that short period of time. And again, both TRS 3 and 4, neither one of those can use annual leave for retirement. TRS 3 is capped at 300 days of sick leave. TRS 4, they can't use sick leave for retirement.
Okay. And then you mentioned TRS-4. One thing that we also hear is a lot of misinformation out there about things like it's not a pension, it's not a good option, albeit they have to work longer. Can you give just a quick description about that? And then when we developed, and negotiated that TRS tier 4, there is a variable component that we talked about having some flexibility in how those investments are made. Can you give them a quick update about where that status is?
Sure, sure, be glad to. So, TRS-4, it's more pension than it is, a deferred compensation, like a 40. It's more pension than something that's like a 401k account. Okay. It's so 9% of the member contribution and 8% of the employer contribution for teachers goes in the pension side, 2% of the member and 2% of the state's contribution go into the supplemental savings account. Okay. So the majority goes into the pension side. Uh, if teachers work long enough, they can have a very nice pension on the pension side, equivalent to what they would get if they're in TRS 1, 2, or 3. On top, in addition to that, they're also getting the supplemental savings account. That total of 4% of pay is going into that supplemental savings account over time. So, for several months before the session when TRS is the 2021 session, before TRS-4 was enacted, there was a lot of meetings with stakeholder groups, public officials, legislators, uh, kind of spearheaded by Representative Massey, and there were a lot of discussions about what a new benefit tier might look like. Certainly in the past, before those discussions were taking place, we know that there were thoughts about changing TRS prospectively. There was a bill that was even filed that would have made TRS, they call it a cash balance plan, but it was really completely, and I'll use the word 401k. It wasn't a 401k, but everybody's familiar with that. It was really just a modified 401k plan. There was no pension element to it. And that bill got passed and was law temporarily before it was struck down by the Kentucky Supreme Court on procedural grounds. Okay. So we knew that there was discussion even after TRS-4 legislation got passed. I had one legislator tell me, we're not through, we're still going back. But anyway, TRS-4 did get passed, and unlike that other earlier bill that got passed, that got struck down, it is mostly pension and less supplemental. And then getting back again to the supplemental, again, we got 4% total payroll going in there, 2% from the member, 2% from the state. And when we had those discussions leading up to the 2021 session, people want to be kind of cautious with how we develop this new tier and make sure that it worked actuarially. Our actuaries assured us it would, but we wanted to get some experience, actual experience with it. And it is working maybe even better than expected actuarially in being funded, well funded. Okay. It is this tier, these TRS-4 people are never going to have to worry about funding. Okay. Which is another benefit. But because we were being cautious initially, everybody wanted to be cautious. The interest that is assigned to TRS-4 was set as a very conservative rate. And that rate is a rolling 5-year average of the 30-year Treasury bond. And that's not a lot. That can range from historically to, or recently historically, from maybe the high 2% to high 3% range. So that's something that's not bad. It's guaranteed and it's safe. They're never going to, have a negative year. But it's modest. So our board has approved for TRS to talk to legislators about legislation this upcoming session in addition to that 30-year Treasury bond rate, to give TRS-4 members the option, if they choose, to invest in an index fund. TRS invest in index funds internally. We have a large cap stock index fund, a mid cap stock index fund, and a small cap stock index fund, and we have a bond index fund that we manage internally. But to give TRS4 members the option to invest in those index funds as well. The language that would be suggested would require the Board of Trustees or give them authority to promulgate administrative regulations that would establish this index fund feature. So, it would be a very public process and go through the General Assembly's Administrative Regulation Review Subcommittee and maybe a subsequent subject matter committee, for approval. So there'd be a lot of opportunity for people to comment on it, and for it to be vetted. But that is proposed. So I think probably there will be somebody willing to sponsor that legislation. There's a couple of other items of legislation that TRS is suggesting, but I think that's the one that's going to get everyone's attention more than anything else. And we have had stakeholder groups and we've had members ask us, can we have other options to invest our TRS for supplemental account dollars? And I think it'd be a good thing for teachers to have that opportunity if they so wish to whether they're in TRS4 now or in the future to switch over to an index
And
fund.
that portion also is has mobility with it too. It's theirs, right? They own
Right.
that portion. Yes.
And if they want to, they can choose to. There's a lot of things, when they retire, they can take out all or some of it, as they want. They can leave it with some of it with us. They can choose to annuitize it, and turn it to a steady
Yeah.
income stream as well. So they have a lot of flexibility with that account. And with that supplemental account, with the pension side too, in a lot of cases, TRS4 members or particularly we can get the index fund feature added, are going to see a better benefit than had they been in TRS1, 2, or 3.
And I remember hearing that mid-career and late career entrants that are in TRS4, it's actually a better benefit for those kinds of folks in many ways.
TRS ran a whole bunch of scenarios about, people entering at different points in their life into TRS, later careers and salaries and all of that. And yes, you're correct. Depending on their situation, for sure, we were seeing a better benefit. And what we see with new members, uh, most of our new members are coming in, right out of college. But then also, we're seeing a lot of people come in much later in life into teaching. And we don't know why for sure. It could be the attractiveness of having a pension and realizing they don't have a retirement. They're never going to be able to retire. But you know what? TRS is a pretty good deal. And we'd like to, go back to the classroom. And there are a whole lot of people who were in the classroom at one time, thousands and thousands. And I don't recall the exact number, but it's a staggering amount of people who were once teaching, who are now inactive members, that it would be, that's potential recruitment,
Mhm.
particularly if they start to worry about their retirement again. They have this option to come back to TRS, reestablish their account, and work towards that. And they can have a nice benefit to take care of them.
Well, I know we could talk about this for a lot longer, Beau, but we probably ought to wrap it up here. But thank you so much for all that information. And
Oh, we got one question right quick. If you could, Barry Lee's asking if you could repeat the annual leave dates.
I already hit that, Owens.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he was able to touch that. So thanks though for checking that out. All right, we'll still have a few minutes for questions, but Beau, thanks again, and we appreciate it. And Owens, you're going to wrap us up with some closing announcements and save the dates. But otherwise, we wish everyone a happy Friday and a great weekend. And thanks for joining us for our first KASS live event.
Yeah, I thank you, Beau, very much for being a part of this. You're our first guest on KSS Live, and we really appreciate that. For folks interested, we are recording this, and we will be posting it on the dashboard. So if you want to go back and get any points, a lot of information on that that Beau shared, It'll be up there on the dashboard for you to get just some reminders about upcoming events. Our first meeting of Kentucky Leadership Rising in person. Great news on this. We've got 25 in this cohort. It is the largest cohort we've had in the 3 years of KLR, so we're excited about that. Coming up this next Tuesday at KADC in Lexington. Then on the 11th, we have our next KSS Live, and we're looking for Lois Allen, the author of The Multiplier Effect, Tapping the Genius in Our Schools. We think that's going to be a great session. Then don't forget the annual conference coming up December 7th through 9th at the Marriott downtown in Louisville. And then on December 12th, we'll have Jerry Green has agreed to be on with us to talk about superintendent contract strategies around that second or third or fourth contract. He's brilliant at that. You don't want to miss that. So thank you all very much for being a part of KSS Live, our initial event. All the best to you. Have a wonderful weekend. Jim, safe travels to you. All the best, everybody.